Hey, Chad, it's me and Aiden. Hello. All right, well, today we're going to talk about a bunch of politics, business stuff. Big news. Aiden's going to break down his theory on abortion, gay rights, the border, trans people in sports, covering every issue point by point.
All my hottest takes.
Is that your dad? This is my dad, folks. This is my father. He's getting up in the years, but he's here to talk about finance and business with us.
I'm military, man. It was tough moving around when we were
No.
when we were young.
I already had my dad on stream. We got pissed drunk. And he like leaked his Raytheon email.
Jesus.
He was literally like, email me.
All right, I have a question for you.
What's up?
I've had it in my somewhat locked plans for a while to leave the United States.
Oh, this is about you hating America.
I'm not a Trump got elected, now I'm leaving guy. I wanted to leave no matter what. I think things are worse, but I wanted to leave. And I've been making plans around leaving for a while, and I have a timeline for myself, and I've talked to an immigration lawyer. I am surprised in the current state of things. Yeah. Not that everything is bad all the time. You know, there are good things that have happened over the last, 5 years. I'm not saying it's all, doom or all the time, but I'm always surprised by your rather pro-American sentiment in the sense that you want to stay. Yeah. You think things will, ultimately get better. Yeah. You also like LA. Yeah. Which surprises me. What are your thoughts on, moving? Why don't you want to move? I'm not saying people should have to want to move. It's a very strong conviction for me for a variety of reasons.
No, you've had it for a while. I will fully back you up that you've talked about leaving well before the election. For years. You've had a plan of you want to go to a Nordic country, basically.
I want to go to Sweden specifically.
Specifically.
Yes. This is also this is like the Diesel Derek thing. Slime has been spreading a different rumor that I want to go to Sweden because it's a white, homogenous society. He says I want my white nation. And I'm just like, dude, you know what's more white than Sweden? Fucking New Hampshire. Nice. That was my question for you.
So here's what I'll tell you. Listen, I agree that some things don't look so good. Number one is that I think you and a lot of people in America overrate everywhere else. In that, I think the problems there are different in some ways, but there's problems. And maybe some of them are more immediate right now, but they're brewing, maybe some places are a few years behind. But the AFD's rising, and it's like you're moving to Germany. It's I'm getting away from this populist politics. You know what I'm saying? It's it's happening everywhere. Everywhere's dealing with inflation. Everywhere's dealing with high housing costs. Everyone's dealing with rising youth angst and unemployment and populist counter movements. And so I'm not gonna flee. If I want to flee, I can do it within my own country with money. So secondly, I don't want to flee to another country to try to avoid those things.
Yeah.
The second part of it is, I've lived in a few places. I lived in Korea for almost a year. I lived in Japan for a year, and I lived in Germany for 4 years, I guess. So I've lived in different places, and I traveled a lot. And I am, unfortunately, an American. You know what I'm saying? Culturally, that's where I grew up. I don't think I will ever become. Even if I spent a bunch of years in a different country, I don't ever feel like I'm that nation. I will enjoy it. I'm sure they'll be nice to me, but I will always feel like an American. I remember feeling this really bad in Korea. After a year in Korea, and again, Korea is an extreme example. It's so different, but I felt homesick. I felt like it's a great place to visit. I had a lot of fun, but it's just not what I love. My comfort, and also the third thing is that I think no matter where you live in the world, even if one place was way better quality of life, and I think Sweden does have a better quality of life. I'm not going to fucking knock it. But I think the most important thing in life is friends and family, being somewhere close to me that I can see them regularly. So if I live far away, even if my day-to-day life is better, I will feel more lonely. Even if I make friends there, that I don't have the people my true community people that I, my family and my friend, you Stans, people that I like hanging out with. So that's my 3 reasons why I don't think I would ever.
So we all need to move together.
Yeah. I mean, that would drastically up the enjoyment of it, but I don't think it's going to happen. So,
first of all, ban the person who said I underestimate how difficult it is to move somewhere else.
I will. I'll ban anybody. I love
ban that
people.
guy. Because I don't.
He does. He's so into it.
I've
been
so meticulous. One, not that it's a drastic cultural difference, but I moved to a different country when I was a kid. Again, immigrated to the U.S. after that country, and I've been so meticulous about evaluating the specific place I want to immigrate to. Also, have a network of friends and like support system there already, people that I'm like pretty close with and like talk with all the time. Specifically chose this place over like many others, rather having this like rose tinted glasses of like, I think the difference between me now and me at 20, for example, is like me at 20 was like, I would go to somewhere like Japan or Hong Kong or like the Netherlands or the UK and be like, all of these places seem so amazing. These all seem like places that I would love to move to. Over time, I like took stock of like the consequences and like of moving specifically to those places, visiting them, finding out like what social like connections I had in each, like what immigrating there was like particularly like, and trying to like really evaluate the stakes of what moving to these different places and slowly crossing these places off the list, basically, for various reasons. And like the
Aiden
UK
just walking around the UK.
The UK is not on a trajectory. Because for me personally, the UK is like the easiest for me, besides Canada, which is just like going back to where I moved from originally. Going to the UK is the easiest for me because I don't even need a job to move there. I just get like a 5-year residency visa and then I can become a citizen.
Bro, it would be so funny to me if you immigrated to Canada and then it becomes the 51st state and you're right back.
That'd be so funny. That'd be kind of sick.
We bring you right back, dude. You can't escape.
But anyway, I think just for various reasons, I've like sliced down the list to a lot over time, and I eventually got to like a couple places that.
Anyone thinking Aiden is like the regular, I'm out of this country or whatever, he's not. He's like a long-term planner. He travels a lot.
It's funny on the subject of people moving together, because I think that is that's like the prisoner's dilemma of streamers in LA. Like on the whole, talking to everybody is like the general sentiment of the streamer community in LA is a lot of people want to leave, but nobody wants to leave the like friends and networking. So like in order for it to actually work, everybody needs to like a huge chunk of people need to leave together at the same time, but nobody will like actually do that, right? So they're caught in this issue of like nobody actually wants to be in Los Angeles. Nothing about streaming really needs to be here, but it just happens to be the place where a bunch of people have congregated.
Do you know Dan Clancy owns a city?
Oh, doesn't he like have a small town or something?
It's a megalopolis. It's like a 10 million. It's Tokyo sized. I heard this from somebody.
Did you get in trouble for this or
Dude,
something?
I heard someone I trust. Someone I deeply trust told me that. I mean, I don't even want to say anything more about him because he could retaliate. But this person said, yeah, he has great influence over a very small town. And I repeat that. That's what I say.
Yeah.
And then Dan Clancy goes on XQC's stream and he's like, you see that Atrioc clip? He said I owned a city or something. And it's like, not what I said. I didn't say owned. I said influence over a small town, which made me matter because he's like doing the gaslight. He's trying to make it seem like it's so exaggerated it couldn't be real. And so now every time I talk about it, I repeat that he owns a 10 million strong megalopolis with a military and a firing squad, and he is a tyrant.
The only thing I'll say about Dan Clancy is he's very good at basketball.
Dude, I heard he's a fouler.
Dude, he's actually so good.
I heard he plays a little dirty ball though.
I won't speak ill.
I heard he's got the Clancy elbow.
I was on Dan Clancy's team and we were running.
I see. Well,
and Dan Clancy, I genuinely was the best player on the court that night. So
I challenged him. I put out a call.
You're gonna get smoked. I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna get smoked.
Well, it depends on if we play in Clancyville or not. He's got the rules and the refs are on his side.
That is super interesting though, because I think your reasons for not wanting to move are super valid. I ultimately understand. Like,
okay, can I give one more reason? This is reason number 4.
Yeah.
This is right. This is like the least important reason. It's not real, but like I do think things will get better. I think in the long arc of history, we've had so many bad periods in America, and then it gets better.
In the long arc of history, they'll certainly get better, but they'll also certainly get worse, and that's the beauty of time.
What's so wise? I like the idea of having this arc in my life of being through the struggle for the reward. That's cool to me.
The American, you want to go through the shitty American times?
Yeah, I want to fight through the bad times so that it's a. I feel like if I'm looking back on my life and I like fly away and then fly back when it's good again or something, I'm gonna feel
that could be beast mode.
I mean, that's like the right way to live. And it'll be like if I have if me and Ari have a kid, it's like if things get bad or whatever, then we'll dip. But because it's not just me I have to think about. But
my dad and I have talked about this a lot, and his general take on it was because I think from his perspective, he, funnily enough, even as a Canadian, like his mentality when he was searching for jobs, and his big teaching thing to me, which I think some of which has been instilled, is he was like, I am going to like move around for whatever opportunity allows me to like climb up in life.
Yeah.
And for him, that was like moving our family to the UK, and then moving like back to Canada, and then moving to the US. And then now he like lives in like Hong Kong half the time because of his job too.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the way he sees things. And for him, he's like, America, like living in America has given me and my family so much like success and opportunity. And like, he's like always talking about how I should appreciate that. And it's funny because it's like a Canadian immigrant story. It's not like you're coming from like abject global poverty. It's like he always talks about that stuff. It's really funny to hear that. And he has this like, I feel like American loyalty because of that. Because he sees like the paths for him personally and his family as opened by the US. It's funny when we have this conversation because I see things differently than he does. I'm like, oh, I have these reasons for wanting to leave. And I'm like, Dad, you literally did that. You literally left to make changes in your life.
No, I think that's
that
fair. I think that's totally fair.
Like, you wanted to make these changes in your life, and that's why you moved. And that's why I want to do it.
It's funny because I think back to my childhood, we moved a lot, but it's like, it gave me the opposite reaction, which is that I desperately craved roots. Like, I desperately craved, as a kid, the stability of one spot and knowing people and building. Like, the fact that I have a local coffee, I don't get coffee, but coffee shop, where they know my order and know my name and know my dog and and the fact that I, like, have regular basketball sessions with friends. Like, I fucking love that. To me, that's awesome. I like rooting for the Lakers and it's my local team. I like it. I like being a person that has an identity and a community that I'm building roots in. I know it sounds whatever, but
I think we talked about this in Copenhagen. We talked about this in Copenhagen because I think we had this conversation of, I think we came to the realization that we had somewhat similar upbringings in terms of like being moved around and like displaced all the time.
Yeah.
But we have like opposite conclusions because of it.
Yeah.
It's like you like want your like American roots set down and your like lifestyle that you like have and that like comfort, and like I think that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I think I went in like the opposite direction where I like have
rules.
I have like a disdain for I have like a disdain for that stability for some reason. I don't know, not the stability itself, but I
think that's interesting. That's cool. But also, you are an open person in that you adapt very quickly to a new situation. Where like if you were thrown into a group of new people, you're just fine with it.
Oh, it's fun.
I don't think I'm bad at it, but I can notice a difference where I'm like, oh, I'm on edge. You know, I'm like, who is this person? My general thing is like, you know, until I know they're cool or funny, I'm like, fuck you. Like, what are you doing here? And you're like open. You're like, you're approaching it with good. You're like,
oh, your name's Diesel Derek?
Yeah. Oh, you're 14?
You're 19? We can't keep lowering the age.
All right. So, okay, let's talk about some stuff. I picked 4 topics. But there's like one main one. I wanted to talk with you about and just get your thoughts, you know?
This one's crazy.
What about this article? Falling birth rates raise prospect of sharp decline in living standards. And this article we both read independently. It is about how, you know, most people know this for Japan or South Korea. They know that like, hey, the birth rates have been off a cliff. There's a lot of old people and it's becoming a problem. What this article makes the case that it's happening everywhere. Nobody's having babies, whether it's Australia, Japan, US, Germany, UK, France, Italy, Spain, wherever. We are falling behind the replacement rate on children, and slowly but surely we're becoming a children of men type older society. And because our entire economy is based on, you know, number of workers either increasing or maintaining at parity, we're going to have decreasing standards of living. Unless, and I think that makes the case here, is like, unless productivity drastically increases, if you get more out of each person, which could happen with like AI and robots, or it could happen by, and this is the sad part of the article, it's like people have to work more hours or work later or like retire later.
Yeah, they're going to raise retirement age.
Which is kind of base because I think old people should work harder.
You should have to keep grinding. The grind should never stop.
Joe Biden's out there, 96 years old, working hard as president. Like, why shouldn't people be working in the factories?
He never quit. He actually thinks he still has the job right now. A quality both him and Trump's share is that they both think they had the job after it was over.
That's good. I think it's a sign of a good president.
I think this problem is really, really interesting because of how disputed the cause is and also what's gonna happen. Because I think the immediate reaction from most people when you bring this up, people are like, of course, it's too expensive to have kids. And I think that is true. Like, that is certainly like a part of the equation, right?
Yeah.
But the actual like underlying principle is people have like big arguments about which is actually influencing the most heavily, and because the trend is like so global. And also what's really interesting that I hadn't really realized until I read this article is the trend in birth rates in a lot of like developing or undeveloped nations. There seems to be a trajectory of birth rates falling in less developed places as well.
Yeah, I saw that the only countries that still have like a above replacement birth rate, like a growing birth rate, there's like 14 countries in Africa and like maybe 2 in Southeast Asia, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everywhere else is no longer growing in like above trend birth rate, which is like not true for the past 4 decades or whatever after World War Z. Like that is just now becoming a problem.
I was trying to explain. I recently had a conversation with my girlfriend about this problem because she was talking about no, hold on. I realized the way I realized the way I introduced this sounds bad.
Okay.
It makes it sound like I'm pressuring my girlfriend to have more children to
Dude,
save,
it's funny. It's the opposite.
Save the economy.
Well,
it's actually the opposite. My girlfriend is begging for kids.
She's baby crazy.
Please
She's
wait.
like the birth rate demographic
Please
problem.
wait.
We have to save the nation.
We have to save the nation. And I'm like, we don't.
And
we
you
can
are
just,
letting the
why don't we
nation
leave it to
fail,
other people?
dude.
For context, my girlfriend is a nanny and she wants to have children more than anything in the world. And she wants 4 kids. And I'm like, no, not 4. When we were talking about this, I was also
gonna move to Sweden and start pumping out Calvins. Dude.
That's the plan.
You're gonna overwhelm the country.
That's the plan. The way the issue scales over, like, if you go from like something like a 1.5 to a 1.0 to a 0.7, like South Korea is like the expected outcome is so much worse. It like exponentially scales.
Yeah.
Based on like how much it falls. It's very interesting. And then also the other part where this hasn't really happened in human history before. There hasn't been like, I think what's like an example of something like maybe comparable is like maybe like the Black Plague in Europe, where like a devastating amount of people died and it slowed like human development for like hundreds of years after because of like how much of society died from the disease.
Do you hear that, chat? Your lack of Riz is equivalent to the Black Plague.
It's a little scary when people talk about the solutions for the problem in that sense too, because people don't really have great solutions now. It's like people run these campaigns in these countries. They're making like, there's a ton of money, and this article talks about this, the money that gets spent in places to try to increase the birth rate doesn't really seem to be effective. Campaigns like don't have like a huge influence on this number. And then like, what else can you do? You can supplement the problem with immigration, but the amount, depending on like where your country's at, the amount of people that have to come to like make up for the difference is like so extraordinary. And also because the trend is global, like over a long enough time frame, only individual countries can solve it with immigration over time, but then over a long enough period of time, like it's just the world's problem.
Sure. This article mentions it, but like a lot of countries are now in panic mode and they're trying a lot of different solutions. And like you mentioned, the scary thing is that a lot of them aren't working. If it was easy as like free paid childcare or some extra time off or a little extra money, you know, I think a huge part of it, as most people agree, is like the rising cost of living and housing expensive, etc. 100%. However, even when they control for that and they try some of these studies, like people are just having fewer kids. Like it's just not working as well as they thought. And so it's becoming, especially in places like Japan and South Korea, but everywhere, like a real like emergency red blinking light crisis. Because again, you know, if you're at 0.78 and you imagine that like as the number of old people increases and the number of working age people decreases, they are under more pressure. Like they're getting taxed more. They have more. So they're even less likely to start a family because they're all the things that made it hard before are now doubly hard. You know, as you said, it goes exponential. Suddenly you're like completely off a cliff and and your country just disappears. This article doesn't really go into it, but I looked more into it. And there is a real question, which is that because this is happening across so many different societies, regardless of almost level of income, and it just seems to be some part of it is that as societies become more gender equal and as people become like women who get an education and have like a normal life do not want to have 5 kids generally.
Yeah.
They just don't. They at best they want like 2, which is exactly impersonation rate. I don't know. I think it's a real interesting question.
I think that's kind of the idea. Is like I think a lot of the theories like seem to like hold some sort of water is like the amount of people that used to live in like rural areas or had like jobs associated with agriculture in the past for like a large portion of human history. Your children were like an asset. Like having your children was an important part of like being able to build and sustain your life because your children helped like operate your farm or business or something like that, right? Whereas now like children are more of like an economic burden. They're not really an asset. And then also like
so do you think if like we opened like a big national mine and every kid that you send to work there, you got a paycheck back?
Dude, that would fix the problem.
I feel like people would be incentivized to have a lot of children.
Absolutely. If we had kids in order to send them to the mines and you had to meet the mine kid quota, I think this problem's solved in maybe 10, 20 years.
Okay. I mean, yeah, like we could turn Greenland into a big open air.
I think it's
rare earth metal.
I think with that in mind is like so much of society has changed like culturally and technologically. Like people have this desire for like more independence in life. Men and women have more equal opportunities across the board. The structure of like economies and societies isn't as dependent on systems that require kids. In order to fix the problem, you either need a gigantic cultural shift away from where we are now and the trajectory of where we're going now, which would have to happen globally, which I just like don't think is possible.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that's not actually the solution, right? Yeah. Is like these people who are like go back to like trad values and like the family and like if we just get God back in the home, it's like that's like it's a hopeless plight. I don't think this is actually like a policy, but I remember having a conversation with my dad like literally like 8 years ago where he was asking me like, well, what would you do? And I actually think young me had a slightly good idea back then. Okay. And I was like, if I were like a really rich government right now, I would be working towards like developing and nationalizing AI and robots. They have to pick up like the human slack of not just this problem, but I think also like you need to automate enough of society that this problem doesn't matter. And then also the cost of like choosing to be independent as a human being, because it's like, what is like the alternative? Like you can't like force people to have families. The policies are already failing to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the reason I said this at the time, which I still think is good, is like, I think I was thinking in the context of like nationalizing like something like resources that are should be like rights for everybody. Like in some like far off like crazy future, you have like robots operating like service jobs, so like you don't even like have to work anymore and we all live in like harmony. Some like insane like idea. Sure. I'm not saying that's like actually the policy that I'm cheering for right now. I'm just saying that like you need automation in some facet to make up for this dip, because the alternative is asking for some giant cultural movement and change that would happen across all these different countries that have all like different values and ways of life, which like just does not seem possible. I think part of the problem is like I here sitting with you in this room as streamers at 27 years old don't actually have the solution, but it's like nobody has a solution to this right now. I really like the what's funny campaign I do like about this. I remember seeing it, I think in like either the beginning of college, or maybe high school. Denmark was already worried about this back then, and they have this Do It for Denmark campaign where they had like TV ads that basically were telling people to fuck. And I thought that was really funny, and it's mentioned in the article.
Kan sex redde Danmarks fremtid? Danmark har et problem. Fødselsraten er den laveste i 27 år, og der fødes ikke nok. 10% af alle danske børn er undfanget på en ferie.
So it's telling people to like go on holiday and make a baby, bro. The solutions are so difficult, and I always thought that like, you know, the point of like automation and robots and AI should not be to like suckle every bit of profit out of society. It should probably be in an effort to like make our lives like better as like people together. And
sounds wasteful and shitty. Yeah, stupid. I think the whole thing you just said. I think, you know what the problem is? You're talking about Aretha Franklin. We haven't had like a good Marvin Gaye R&B type sex song in like decades. I think if there was like a Let's Get It On type song for the modern age.
Realistically, it's going to come from the K-pop industry. At this rate.
There's nothing more incel than K-pop.
They're at the precipice of the problem,
K-pop
though.
and incel circles are like it's one Venn diagram. It's one circle. Half of the incels I see on Twitter have a K-pop profile picture. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm starting a.
If we're talking about solving this problem, the anime PFPs and the K-pop PFPs, they got to be a part of the solution.
Someone's got to say it. They got to pull their weight,
Society
dude.
has to come together.
They have to pull their weight, and right now they're not doing it.
Okay, this is also something I looked at today in preparation for this conversation. I wanted to look at birth rates and compare them among developed nations and like see what the like general trend or differences that I could see were. And like France is like, I think the second highest in Europe or like one of the highest in Europe. And France has like really, really good like childcare services. Like a huge part of taxes paid in France goes towards things like having access to like a nurse for your child during the first year.
Yeah.
And things like that.
But even France had to recently raise their retirement age.
Yeah. So I'm not saying this isn't an issue still, right? But there's, this is a smaller technically not a country. I don't know exactly. The Faroe Islands has a birth rate of like 2.2, but the difference being that I think like the Faroe Islands is still pretty like fishing and like agriculturally like based economy, so I wonder if like that plays a role in it or something. Monaco's was interesting too, because Monaco is like a pretty, you know, very rich, very developed, you could say, but that's probably the reason why it's so high, is like Monaco is just like such a wealthy
so that's
place,
the thing,
so
that's like that's the big question of this that I found when reading more into it, is like I've always thought that it was just that housing is expensive and people don't have enough money or free time. And I think that's a part of it, and that will help if you alleviate that. But I always thought, we just fixed that problem and everything goes back to how it was. But now I'm thinking we have to figure out a way to live in a world where we can make a lower birth rate work, because it just seems like as people get more educated, like the birth rate is going to decline no matter what. As people's like standard of living improves, they just don't want to have, except for you and your girlfriend, I guess, they don't want to have a ton of kids. They just,
to be clear, I don't want to have 4 kids. I'm shooting for, I'm technically below replacement rate. I'm shooting for 2.
Yeah, exactly. I I'm shooting for 1 or 2 if I have a kid. And so I'm not in a situation where I'm like worried about money or housing. So I think people's attitudes towards it have changed, let alone,
I think
France is at 1.8. Like that's a good one. Like that's terrible.
I know.
Is it South Korea still the lowest? South Korea at 0.9, Hong Kong at 0.8.
That's where I will say Hong Kong is a place, like Hong Kong is a place that I've spent a lot. I see why people don't have kids. Like when it's like this dramatic, it's like, dude, space is just
no
at
space.
Such a
prices is very expensive.
It's like LA, dude. LA is so expensive, and I was just when I was visiting Hong Kong, I go there for Christmas, and I was just there, so I was curious, and I started looking at places that are like the same size as my apartment in LA. And a lot of the stuff in LA will be, if you wanted like 1,000 or like 1,500 square feet, different parts of LA, that might be somewhere between like $700,000 to like 1.3, 1.4 million.
Yeah.
That same amount of space in Hong Kong is like $3 million.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
Damn, China. I heard China, it's like at $1 billion right now, is going to be half gone by like, I don't know if it was 2050 or 2080, but like $1 billion down to 500 million. That's Thanos. That's like Thanos snapped in China.
I think
how crazy is that?
The short-term problem is like any country that is like has a low birth rate right now, but isn't chill with immigration.
Oh yeah, you're just cooked.
Fucked. I don't know what you do. Like you have no way out of it.
Japan is like the perfect example.
Japan is. That is kind of the nice Japanese thing. Is like there's the nice thing. The nice thing is that there'll be a couple countries to watch first.
I say that all the time.
and like see.
Japan is like every problem we have, but in the future. And so like they're the canary. I can just be like, all right, well, Japan hasn't exploded yet, so we're good. We have years. They have all these problems. You'll see them deal with it, dude. Anyway, that's that article. I want to talk about, yeah, and you got a little go pretty soon. I don't actually want to bring this up. I just want to show you one picture. There's an article I was reading. I think it's an opinion essay or something about where woke went wrong.
Yeah.
And I thought it was actually decently thoughtful. It was just talking about how some of these movements, certain things that alienated people that otherwise would agree with them or whatever.
Yeah.
But the main reason I want to bring this up to you is this photo of an anti-woke demonstrator.
Dude, he's actually going Joker mode. Oh my God.
Wearing the awake but not woke hat in the Joker mask. I thought this guy was just so base.
Dude,
it takes
this
one
is
bad day.
it's so funny when like characters that you've described or like seen as like jokes online become real people. The woker is real, dude. Does he get interviewed in this? Like, is it?
Oh no, he just was one of the photos.
What's the woker's opinion on what's going on?
Dude, I would love to interview the woker on
one
stream.
thing that is me and Slime were joking about today, or like what feels insane to me, I feel like this is insane, is like 2 plane crashes happen and the reaction has been like the weird level of the reaction of like DEI has like infiltrated. Woke has infiltrated.
It was woke.
FFA regulations. Or like when the fires were happening in LA and it's like woke has destroyed the fire department. Woke voted to lower taxes in the Palisades. I just don't like that I log into Twitter now and there's used to be news.
He said, "What a hero! I got this privilege." Dude, that's a +9, dude. That's a +12.
Or when people are like, or like woke has taken over the Pentagon, and it's like, I think you're
Yeah, it's
lost.
like, how woke do you think the Pentagon
How woke is the Pentagon? Call me insane. I don't think woke is a big problem at the Pentagon.
No, I
or
don't
was
think so.
it?
The only time here's an example. Let me give you an example. I was trying to be like a fair and balanced here.
Yeah.
Trying to be Fox News. So I was trying to think of examples in my life. I remember, do you know Rochelle?
Yeah.
Stanza's wife?
Yeah.
Rochelle's amazing. She wears a pride flag like 99% of the days of the week.
Yeah.
Okay? Rochelle, she's bisexual, openly. By any definition from the woker here, she's very woke.
Yeah.
Okay? She went to, it was like an all-female for the future conference or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were on stage giving a presentation, and she walked up to ask a question.
Yeah.
Okay? She like raises her hand and she like gets the microphone and she goes, "Hey guys, I love the show. Can't wait to say anything." And they stopped her and said, "We're not guys. Please don't say guys." I think sometimes, this is the only thing, I don't think it has big power. I don't think it's a big problem. I think sometimes it pushes people away from causes that I care about by being so...
Yeah.
It's not like... People make it out like woke is the... I think if you stack rank the problem, it would be 600,000. You know, it just makes it hard to build a coalition. I'm always trying to build a coalition so that I can... I want this stuff to happen.
Yeah, I think the problem with... I would say stuff like that. There's like these weird surface level things that like will get latched onto by maybe like left leaning or like liberal movements. Maybe I'm trying to choose my words.
Yeah. It's probably. Dude, I noticed this when I'm streaming. Every word has become a minefield now, where it attaches things to it that you're not trying to say.
If you're watching this stream, learn to just view things in fucking good faith for a second. If you're tripping on like single word usage,
dude.
it's so annoying.
It's so
because
annoying.
You obviously understand. I feel like you obviously understand the point being made, and then people have no good faith online. Yeah. It's so annoying. Do you know who Fred Hampton is?
No.
He was like the chairman of the Black Panther Party.
He got shot or something.
Yeah, he got killed by the FBI.
Yeah, I know it from a Jay-Z song.
So Fred Hampton
That's how I learned history.
Was like the cornerstone of like a huge movement within the Black Panther Party, and like they did a lot of like concretely like good things for communities, like giving out like free meals.
Dude, wait, I'm sorry. It's so funny to have this conversation with the woker.
This is bad. I don't want the woker on screen during this. It's like we're talking about Fred Hampton with the woker on screen.
Like we should just clip it, and it's just us looking at the woker and talking about.
But Fred Hampton had a very strong, like, unifying message across, like, not just within the Black community, but across, like, other racial communities in these, like, lower class, like, areas and gave like very like concrete support and like had a very cohesive message for people around him of like, we can make like all of our lives better, basically. And if we like work together and build a coalition. And I think the problem with stuff like that, that like nitpicky surface level stuff that doesn't matter. Cause like, hey guys is like, I would say at least in all of my life on the like West Coast is like equivalent to like, hey y'all, like, hey, it's just a way you address a group of people.
And like, there's also a polite way to, like, if you really hate hey guys.
Yeah.
But to like make her feel small and call her out in front of this old people when she's like, it's like a small little thing. Exactly. She showed up and spent money and like it's just so crazy. Like, I find that stuff it makes me furious because I'm like, what is the point? What are we doing this all for?
Nothing. There's no point. I think that's the problem. So when you get nitpicky about those things, it gives, I feel like so much of like right-wing messaging right now is fueled by latching onto those surface level things, feeding its back to its following, and being like, this is the insanity of the left. Like the strong messaging of like unionize, working class, like left wing, better the working class, like messaging that like I think like leftism is like supposed to be about, has been like stained things like that. Yeah. Because the right wing like 100%. Weaponizes it against like, it and like makes that the like, that's why they talk about the debunked like they have litter boxes at schools for the kids who think they're
that's
cats,
real. That's facts.
dog shit.
I actually heard that from the Wilkers podcast. That's actually real.
Except when it's real. But that's why they talk about that stuff, is because it like otherizes this like a movement or like an ideology that's supposed to be about like connecting the class at the bottom against and like bettering yourselves.
Yeah.
And uplifting everyone, but it's been stained by stuff like that, and that's why it's so annoying. That's what I think. That's so annoying.
I think that's gay. Sorry, I'm trying to get Joe Rogan viewers rolling here.
How do we pull the Joes in?
No, I think that was well said.
Okay, this is. I'll go out on an insane. I'll go out on a crazy.
Oh, he's going crazy?
Crazy limb here.
He's going crazy?
I'll go. This is. And
This
is it. And this is here. And remember, we're all here in good faith. We're all here in good faith. And I'm gonna preface this also by saying I don't like this guy, and I disagree with so much of what he has to say. Almost all of what he has to say. I listened to this hour-long podcast from the New York Times. Between somebody like the interviewer and Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is insane. He is so wrong about so much.
Steve Bannon's so base.
But I think the undercurrent of like the reality is like for average people in the country is like, I think the idea behind like a lot of like populist things is that people ultimately like want the same things for their communities.
Bro, the root of populist is popular. It's just popular shit.
And so much of this like like class camaraderie stuff is like
Steve Bannon just said this. Steve Bannon said, number one, I would be a huge supporter of Lena Khan remaining in her job. I would love to see her given more power. I think we ought to go and break up Silicon Valley because obviously at their skill they haven't performed very well.
This is why, this
shit was crazy.
I listened to him say this in the podcast. He said this in the podcast. This is why it's so annoying.
That surprised me.
He's obviously a grifter. He has to be a grifter in some sense because it's so crazy for him to say shit like this and then like in the same breath like back up Trump in his decision making. It's insane to me. But I think that's the thing is like what you talk about a lot about is like if you look at the decisions that like Lena Khan makes for like the average American, it is fundamentally good for everyone.
Yeah,
like if you
it's
break
like everyone
down,
likes.
Nobody disagrees.
Yeah, everyone likes getting rid of non-competes. Everyone likes one-click cancel. Everyone likes more competition, less monopolies. They like prices going down. They love that shit. One thing I talk about with building coalitions is like one thing that was so sick about FDR is he got so many different groups of people who would normally be fighting to agree on the general idea of, let's break up monopolies, get a new deal, get people back to work, rebuild the economy, regulate bankers, like all that shit that like helped. He was able to get a broad coalition, people from the South, people from different people with different groups. And so I am always trying to do that because I just feel like so many little nitpicky bullshit causes people to rift over things that don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We're not going to change. We're not going to solve those.
It's just hot. It sucks because there's no way. It's kind of like the demographic problem. It's like, how do you like, I don't know what the broad solution is for like, you can't just tell society to like not fall for.
What do you think about this? Steve Bannon, Aiden, and Atrioc would be a banger podcast trio.
I mean, that guy can
I think
fucking
that'd be kind
talk.
of cool. Yeah, I don't know if we'd get a word in edgewise
Steve
though.
on. I don't think we should have Steve on.
You, me, Steve Bannon, and the Woker as like a
I will say, listening to
the new yard.
Getting there, it's 2v2. It's the Woker Steve Bannon versus me and you.
No, it's me and the Woker, dude. Anyway, one more thing I wanted to say. So we're at the end of your time, basically. I have a lot of China stuff, but I'll save it. Elon Musk, a content printer for me. I love making Elon Musk.
He's the gift that never stops giving.
He's the gift that never stops giving. He did something really smart today, something really brilliant. I don't know if you know this, but advertisers have been not spending a lot of money on X.com. They've been cutting back their spending. They're like afraid to spend on X.com. And he has a plan to get them back, and that is to sue them. And as of today, he added a lot more advertisers to this blanket lawsuit.
This started last year, right?
Yeah, it started last year. He sued, it was like an advertiser group, GARM or something. And then they immediately disbanded because they had no money. Like it was a pretty tiny little, it had like 4 employees. And they're like, we're not going to do a lawsuit with Elon Musk. But now he's suing the companies directly. And I got a list of some of the companies he just added to the lawsuit. Nestle, Abbott, Colgate, Twitch, Lego, Pinterest, Tyson Foods, and Shell. He is now suing all of these companies because they are not spending money on X.com. That is such a base thing to do. Like, you have to spend money on my platform. Like, you have to advertise with us. Otherwise, we're going to sue you.
You're telling me that I can sue Lego because they don't give us ads on the yard.
Yes. And I think you should.
We should be doing that.
I think you should be suing Lego or anyone that canceled an ad read just because you said something a little controversial.
And we've never. But if we did.
If we did.
You
You should sue them.
Dude, this is insane. Okay, I have the same question still as when the story broke. Is that how can you sue companies for not giving you money?
I think the way the lawsuit is written is that it's like an illegal conspiracy. Like they can all individually not give you money, but he is suing that all of these companies are part of a conspiracy. Like they're all working together to try and hurt Elon Musk and X.com. And if they were being rational, of course they would spend their money on X.com.
So is it kind of like, isn't it technically illegal for like 2 stores to agree behind closed doors to like raise the prices on all their goods? You can't legally form a
price fix on
duopoly.
wages or on
and it's that but in reverse.
Again, I don't know if he has much standing, and since the first lawsuit didn't go anywhere, I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere. It could be a scare tactic where it's like rather than they spend money on defense, they just spend a little money on X.com, and it's kind of like bullying them into doing it. But it feels crazy. It feels like
I'm starting to not like this guy very much.
Oh, I didn't know you were woke, Aiden. I didn't know you were woke. God damn it, dude.
Look,
you invite a guy on your show and you think
it's
he's
like
cool and you find out he's woke.
SpaceX, Tesla, whoa, so cool. Oh my God, Iron Man 2 cameo. He's the coolest guy ever. And he's been coasting off his Iron Man 2 cameo credit for a long time with me. And he's been doing a lot of shit in the last few years. And I'm like, but he had a great role in Iron Man 2. Great scene in Iron Man 2. And this might just push me over the edge. I mean, this is insane. I see you got one more sneaky slide there.
That's funny. Oh, I have one more slide. I was going to bring up the fact that I'm beating you in the stock competition and then laugh. But all I wanted to do is show you that I feel like we're not talking enough.
Dude.
I just saw this article today. He ordered the same meal from Applebee's, TGI Fridays, and Chili's. Guess which one had the best flavor and value? Chili's, baby! Chili's supremacy, 1,000 years. And that's why, Aiden, I want to ask you live on this podcast if you'll go to Chili's with me. Will you go to Chili's with me for a follow-up Chili's podcast here in Los Angeles?
I will go to Chili's with you in Los Angeles.
Let's fucking go! Chili's stream round 2 confirmed. Atrioc and Aiden. Chili's confirmed. Chili's supremacy. Chili's 1,000 years. Anyway, Aiden, a pleasure to have you on stream.
Yeah.
Chat, thanks for being cool. It was really fun. I think we don't live that far. You should come over anytime. So we'll do more of this. It'd be fun. And
you know what the worst part about this is?
What?
I watch like all of your clips on the clips channel.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna watch these ones.
Once you're in.
Yeah, I've just destroyed
Okay.
a portion of my driving content because I showed up.
It's funny he says that. It's absolute opposite. Aiden, you, like everyone else, myself included,
Yeah.
Slime, everyone in the yard, you watch everything you're in again to see the comments.
Me?
Yes, dude.
Oh, I don't watch it.
You
I don't-
do.
I
You don't watch it. You don't
it,
watch
Zach.
it. You'll check all the.
I check all the comments.
Yeah.
Of course.
He'll check the comments.
Of course, and then I argue with them.
Yeah, of course.
I find so many.
Of course.
And I find the little bad.
Year of
faith
kindness, though.
actors,
It's probably not going to do
and then
that.
I argue.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and it was fun. This is great. I really enjoyed this. This was fun. So I hope to have you on again, and we'll talk again soon. I'm gonna stay live, so you have to dip, I guess, by yourself. But much
I'm gonna
love,
go
brother.
hang out with my 50. He's turning 15.
He's
today,
turning
so
15.
it's
It's a big age for a young man, and you're gonna help him guide himself into adulthood.
I'm
That's
gonna tell
awesome.
him he should quit his job.